everyone. I'm gonna have to try and remember to look at that camera. God, I feel so rusty. It's been years since I've done this. I hope I'm gonna have the confidence to edit it and get it put up on YouTube. But hi everyone, my name's Charlie. I live in Cornwall in the UK, and if you're a returning viewer, then hello, but it's been a few years, so I don't know if anyone will return. This channel used to be called Yarn Pigeon Podcast, and it was predominantly about knitting. But I've had two daughters since then, and life got a bit hectic, and I stopped recording. But also, a lot of my tastes and the things I enjoy making have changed. So, as I said, I used to be a knitter. I still am a knitter, but not as much. I became vegan 4 years ago, and I decided to make the switch from using animal fibres to plant-based fibres. And I just found I wasn't knitting as much, and I also around that time, I took an adult education course here in Cornwall, in textiles, and I did 3 levels. Well, I was halfway through level 3 when the pandemic hit, so yeah, I didn't really finish level 3, but because of the situation they still gave us our certificates, which was very kind. But through doing that textiles adult education course, I really discovered how much I loved natural dyeing at home. I really loved machine stitching, so not clothes. I would love to make my own clothes, but I haven't really found that I've had the time yet to invest in that, so it's like on the back burner for when my children are a bit older. That's something that I definitely want to start doing, is to sew my own clothes. But mainly doing free motion embroidery on the sewing machine, making sewing pouches, bags. Then I moved on to jelly printing on a jelly plate and using acrylic paints to make my own colourful backgrounds, which I then do free motion embroidery on. And I will show you some of those that I've been working on and off for the last few years later on. I also really got into hand stitching, making hexie blankets by hand. I'll also show you that I've got in progress. And then about a year ago, I fell down the cross stitching rabbit hole and have been lost ever since. So cross stitch has basically took over all my time. As soon as my 2 children are asleep, I stay up probably far too late, most nights, cross stitching. And knitting I kind of do when my eyes get when I get blurry vision. If I've been concentrating on stitching by hand for too long, my vision could go quite blurry, even though I wear glasses. I think it's just I struggle with my my short distance, so I just have to take breaks, and I don't take them as often as I should. So I will then pick up my knitting if my vision's getting a bit blurry, or sometimes if the girls are busy playing, then I can get a few rounds done on my knitting. So I've mainly been, I don't knit garments anymore, unless like friends ask me. I just knit things like blankets, socks, small items like cows. Yeah, so that's me really. So we'll just dive straight in with what I'm working on. I think I've got a big pile behind me. So just a piece that I finished a little while ago. This is by Pinker and Punker Quilting blog. If you type it into Google, it will come up, or if you look her up on Instagram, Pinker and Pumpkin Quilting. And this was one of her freebies. She does lots of freebies. And this is a piece of Ada 14 count that I dyed myself with tea. And my daughter, she's 5, she helped me to dye this fabric. And then stitch this little sampler on it. And I'm not quite sure how I'm going to finish this yet. I might finish it as a pillow. Yeah, I'm not quite sure. It's kind of like on the pile to be finished, and trying to work out how I want to finish it. But I just used threads from Stash DMC. And yeah, I'm really happy with how it turned out. I've also been stitching on and off on this piece. And my memory's just evaded me what this is called. Hang on a sec, I'll just see if I can find the pattern. Oh, everything's falling. Oh yeah, of course, it's called the Fantastic Felines, and I bought this on an Etsy shop. I can't remember what Etsy shop it is. I just feel like since I had my girls, my memory is just terrible. But yeah, the Fantastic Felines, and if you type Fantastic Felines Etsy, it should come up. And I'm using the called for DMC. I did try to just use some from Stash that I didn't have, but I found that the colours like on these flowers, they didn't look quite right. I just couldn't get them to really pop like they did on the pattern, so I decided to go back to the drawing board, and I frogged the stitches that didn't look quite right, and then went to buy the R4 DMC, and then I stitched it again, and I'm really happy with the progress. So this is going to be 4 cats in a row, and I think they're another double this size, so I've got to finish the tail on this one, and then the body goes down into the paws, and then obviously his bottom round into a big spiral tail. So I think this is going to come right down here. I mean, I've got the fabric folded over quite a lot here, and for a while I was a bit put off from carrying on with this pattern. I was really struggling with the large piece of Ada. This again on 14 count, just plain white, and I just felt like I was getting in a real pickle with the fabric. It was just getting a bit hard to manhandle, and it was really putting me off from stitching on it actually. So I asked for some advice, and people said, oh, fold it up and clip it, and ever since I've done that and put it on a bigger hoop actually, it's been a lot easier to work on, and I made really good progress with this until the Mystery Stitch Along came out by Barbara Anna. So I haven't stitched on this since, I think, the end of January, but I will get back to it. I really love it, and I'm stitching this to my daughter. It's going to go in her bedroom because she is completely obsessed with cats. This is something that I've just finished, and this is the Barbara Anna Mystery Stitch Along for this month. We Stitch With Me Sal, sorry, and it's Frida Kahlo. Isn't she beautiful? And I used all the called for DMC and the Krynic thread, which I absolutely loved. I've not used Krynic before. Yeah, I just think it's really stunning. And the only alterations I made on this is that I added these metallic stars above the house, because it really reminded me of nighttime, that part of the cat, and I really wanted to add some stars. I just thought it looked a little bit unfinished. It was a bit of a big blank space above that house, so I'm really pleased that I did that. I really like it. I just think she's so beautiful. I just love Barbara Anna's patterns, and that's what got me into cross stitching. I looked back on when the Dreaming Girl came out. I remember seeing that on Instagram, and I was like, oh, I have to stitch that. And that was the first ever cross stitch that I'd done since I was a little girl, and I just fell in love with Barbara Anna's designs like straight away. And yeah, I've not really stopped since. This is the first, as I said, this is the first Dreaming Girl that I started last January, and everything was going really smoothly. I was really happy with how everything was going, and then I made some huge errors over here. I just miscounted stitches and it looked really off, and because I didn't know much back then, I thought, oh, it'll be fine, I'll just like snip it with my sharp embroidery scissors and get rid of those stitches because it'll be quicker. And I cut through the fabric I was so angry with myself and really frustrated because obviously that's hours and hours of work. So I watched some YouTube tutorials and they said about like putting a border of cross stitches around it and trying to do a bit of a repair, which I tried to do. You might be able to see that. Yeah, I tried to do a bit of a repair, but with using the threads off the side, but it just didn't work out that well. It looked really messy. And actually the design was stitched on the Azure Blue Laguna, so I got Laguna, and at the time it was out of stock and I was really disappointed because I really liked that colour blue. I could only get this blue, I can't remember what it's called. So actually it was a blessing in disguise that this happened. I made this rookie error because the Azure Blue was like back in stock, so I ordered it again and I stitched it all over again. You might be able to see it here because I've got it framed. I love her so much. I look at her every day when I'm sitting at my desk. And yeah, but I've got plans for this piece. I do want to pick it up again and work around this fault and finish it, and then I want to make it into a bag, like a project bag. So I will pick this up again at some point and just work around that fault and make good use of this because she's still beautiful. And I think if I did carry on and make it into a bag, I don't think you would necessarily notice it unless you were really looking at it. So that's how I got addicted to Barbara Anna and to cross stitch. What else have I got? This is a bag that I made for myself many years ago for knitting, but it's actually a really good size for cross stitch. And this is another Barbara Anna. I got the Nitka kit from Nitka, and I got the 4 Seasons kit, which I absolutely love. Is that focusing? Put it over my face. Yes, this is the 4 Seasons, and I've started on this one, Spring. And this is a stitch along I'm doing with Yasmin Made with Love. And we started it on my birthday, which was January the 14th, and we're just running it all year, I think. So a few people have joined us, but if you'd like to join in as well, then we have got a hashtag on Instagram. I think it is Celebrate with 4 Seasons SAL. So you should be able to find it. And I'm using the fabric that was in the kit, which I really love actually, because it's like a slubby linen, like it has got some slubs in it, and I think it's really nice. You have to be a bit careful with the stitching on that, or those parts, but I actually really like this fabric. It's really nice to stitch on. And so I start with the spring lady here, and then I'll go along and add them next to her. Spring, summer, autumn, winter. And she's not yet finished. I finished her actual body and her dress, and I just need to finish her arms, and then as you see on the picture she's got all these flowers and butterflies that go over her head, so that's what I'm moving on to next. And I'm so super happy with how she's looking. I just think she's really beautiful. And I'm using the threads that were sent in the pack as well. They come really nicely prepared. When they come, they're all plaited together on this card. It looks really lovely when they first come. So yeah, I'm just using the called for colours. So in the kit you get the threads, you get the fabric and the pattern, and you get some needles as well that come on the fabric, which I've been using. They're really nice needles. Oh, I've just realised I've only got half a stitch on one of my crosses, so I need to fix that. But I've done exactly as the patterns asked for apart from these bunnies. They had red eyes and I felt a bit creeped out by them, so I decided to change them to black, and I'm really glad that I did, because yeah, I'm much happier with that. So yeah, if you'd like to come and join the stitch along with me and Yasmin, we'd love to welcome you. Or if you just want to come and have a nosy at everyone's projects, then you're more than welcome. But I can wholly recommend Knit Cut. I've bought 2 kits from them now. You could probably just see them there. Yeah, I just received about a week and a half ago the Don't Miss a Miss kit, which has got Miss Coffee, Miss Tea and Miss Scissors, and I just love it. I can't wait to get started on those. But you also get freebie patterns with those kits. So with the 4 Seasons kit, you get spring, summer, autumn and winter little, they're either cats or dogs that are surrounded by like flowers and things that are already on the patterns, I think. I have downloaded them, but I haven't had a proper look at them yet. And then with the Don't Miss a Miss kit, God, the sun's a bit strange today. I hope it's going to be okay. Yeah, with the Do Not Miss a Miss kit, you also get a freebie of a pincushion, which is what I started a few nights ago. And this is where I've got up to so far. In the pattern, these areas here are orange, and the flowers are also different shades of orange. Myself, I'm not a massive fan of orange. I never have been. I'm really drawn to purples and pinks and reds, so I decided to change mine to to pinks and reds. And apart from that, I did use the cool, and the yellow I used from Stash as well. But the blues and the white and one of the yellows is as the pattern calls for. So this is a little freebie. It's going to have, you can see a strawberry here, it's got like a little cat pin and a few other flowers and things that link onto the pincushion by backstitch. So I'm going to finish that and then make it into a little pillow, little pincushion, little pillow pincushion. I'd quite like to get some puntini pins to put in that. Yeah, so I'm really enjoying stitching on that, and I'm really pleased with how it's working out. I'm stitching this on 32 count Zweigart Laguna, and it's one of those, I don't know if you'll be able to see it, but it's got gold flecks of glitter in it. It's really beautiful. I used this fabric for the Dreaming Girl, was inspired by Klimt by Barbara Anna. So I had that framed and I gifted that to a friend for her 40th birthday, so I don't have that anymore. But I've still got plenty of this fabric left, so I thought I'd use it for that project. Oh, I was going to say as well that if you need zip A4 bags, I found these in Home Bargains last weekend and they were like 69p each. They're not good for really large hoops, but I found for the standard, trying to think what size these are, 7-inch I think, like that fits the pattern and the hoop really well and your threads. This was another one I was working on until I started Frida Kahlo. And this is the Acorn Fairy by Stitchy Princess Black. And I'm doing this on 14 count white Ada. Although I'm not sure about this now, because I wish that I'd probably dyed the fabric with tea. Or I was thinking that, but actually as time's gone on, I'm actually really happy with my choice. Just move my needle minder. It's in the way. Because I feel that the white actually makes it makes the colours pop, the autumnal colours. Yeah, and this is the Acorn Fairy by Stitchy Princess Black, who at the moment has got, I think, 40% off in all her Etsy patterns. She's a Ukrainian designer, and sadly, with everything that's happening between Russia and Ukraine at the moment, she has decided to do a 40% off in all her patterns, and she's got a stitch along as well. I think that's across all her patterns. So if you'd like to get involved with that and show support for Ukraine, then, and for Stitchy Princess Black, then I recommend going to buy one of her patterns and getting involved. I really love this. The thing that drew me to this pattern is the acorn. I just love that big oak leaf coming off her acorn cap. I think it's brilliant. So I'm all finished with the main aspects of the pattern. I've just got to finish this border that goes all the way around. And again, I'm not quite sure what I'm gonna finish this as. I'm not quite sure. I really enjoy the cross stitch aspect, but I'm still getting the hang of like what I want the projects to become as complete finished objects. So I just keep them to one side, and then once I've decided, I'll finish it. Getting inspired by other people and their Instagrams or their tutorials. And this is using the recommended DMC as well. I think there's only 6 DMCs in this. So it's a relatively cheap pattern to get on with. And this needle minder I got from Nitka. And this just shows Nitka's amazing service, because when I bought the 4 Seasons sale, I also bought this wooden needle minder. But when the kit arrived, there was no needle minder, so I contacted them and asked them like if it was in a specific place in the tube or in the packaging, because I just couldn't find it anywhere. Anyway, they sent their apologies, and they sent it out recorded delivery, like really, really quickly. And I think from Russia it only took maybe a week and a half, because it only came in a small envelope. And they'd also included a free key ring, which is really nice. I put on my keys, but it's a little wooden bobbin, like a floss holder, so you could put actual embroidery floss on it if you wanted to with your keys. But yeah, so it was 2 sides of the same, but I had some magnets, so I decided to put another magnet on this one. Let me see if I can explain it better. So I had 2 magnets, so I just made them into 2 separate needle minders. So just glued another magnet on the back of the other one. So I got 2 magnets out of it, 2 needle minders out of the same one. Because I found it a bit bulky having like that double-sided for the needle minder. It was just a bit bulky. I much prefer just a flat. Don't look at my messy bags. I much prefer just a flat magnet at the back of my work. So yeah, really pleased with how that's coming on. Oh, back in the bag. I also got this bag recently. This is brilliant. This is a waterproof bag. We've got a shop chain down here in Cornwall called Trago Mills. I think they've got one in Wales somewhere. They've also got one in Devon. They've got a couple here in Cornwall. It's like a shop that's got everything you could ever want, like household things. Haberdashery department is amazing. Books. It's just a really big store with loads of stuff in it. It's really incredible. And the one that we went to the other day, the owner has chickens and peacocks that they own that just roam around the car park, which my daughter loves. But I found this bag and I thought it was really amazing. So it's A3. I think it cost me about £2 something. I'm trying to find the card that came with it. Yeah, it's called an Eco Super Strong bag, and they do these in different sizes. But what I liked about it is it's 100% recyclable, water resistant, extra strong, and it's made using 95% of recycled materials. They were out of stock of the A4 ones, because I would have quite liked an A4 one, but I'm going to pop back there and see if they've got any more. but I was really struggling to find somewhere safe to keep this project in, because it's quite a large hoop. I think it might be, is it 9-inch, I think? I think. Yeah, 9-inch hoop, so it wasn't really fitting in an A4 one. And this is the Modern Folk Embroidery, the Moonshine cabin. I only have a black and white printer, so sorry about that, but you'll be able to find it online if you want to look at it in colour. And I found out about this from Evertotes. They had a competition on their Instagram page, I think last month, and I looked at the rest of their feed, some of their feed, and I saw that they were making up kits for this, which are not affordable for me with it coming from America with the customs and charges and everything, the fees. So I ordered the fabric and the flosses that I didn't have and started on this. I just fell in love with it straight away. And this is another pattern that only uses, I think, 6 DMC threads. And I ordered, I think it's just called Charcoal. Zweigart Laguna 32 count. I do use this fabric quite a lot, and I've made a small start on it. So I've finished 2 windows and the door, and I put the heart on, and I've just finished the steps. So I'm going to go down here, finish this bottom bit here, and then I'm going to work across and up to the other side. But yeah, I love stitching on this, but I found the dark fabric really, really tough on my eyes. Yeah, I've only got this small craft lamp, but my husband has got a really large one that he uses, because my husband sits on the desk over here. We share this room, and he is a Warhammer fanatic. He builds and paints his own miniatures, so he's got an overhead lamp that is like a lot brighter. It covers a lot more of the table surface, so if he's not using that in the evening, and because he's a computer games programmer, so if he's working on his own game or his client's game, then I can use his light, which is great. So I just move it over onto my desk, and because this is only a fabric that I can really stitch on in the daylight, or if I've got his large lamp. Otherwise it really strains my eyes to see the holes. I just feel like my eyesight is not as it used to be. I did have them checked not that long ago, and they said they haven't deteriorated anymore, and I didn't need new lenses, but I did buy some new frames and lenses because they were really scratched my old glasses. But I'm thinking if I'm continuing to have eye strain, I might have to go back again and maybe see if there's any other like lenses or frames that would help me a bit more, help me with this eye strain, because I find it really, really frustrating. Oh, and there's the other part of the needle minder that I was talking about from Nitka. That's the other half. So yeah, I'm looking forward to getting back to that. I think I'm going to work on it more in the spring and the summer as the light improves. The light's been quite terrible up until yesterday here. We had 4 storms, I think, in a row. I live 5 minutes from the beach to walk, and we've got a 3-storey house here, and we sleep on the top floor, and we just get battered by the wind and the rain basically from, trying to think, October onwards, October till about March. It's a bit crazy, but because we had these 4 storms back to back, it was quite bad, like for a good few weeks. I mean, obviously it's been winter anyway, so the light drastically improved yesterday. Yesterday it felt quite spring-like. We went out along the river estuary, not far from here, about a half-an-hour drive, and it was such a beautiful day. I didn't want to get back in the car and come home. I was just having such a nice time, like just to feel the sun on my face again was just glorious. I really struggle with these winter months and the lack of sunlight. I do find it affects my mood and my energy levels. Yeah, it's just a bit tough. I'm sure lots of you can relate to that. Trying to think what other cross stitch I've got. Oh, I've got a finished object here. This little box, which I used a tutorial from Yasmin Made with Love, who's become a really dear friend to me. She's the person I'm doing the 4 season stitch along with. I also did the small pin cushion. We're doing that together as a small stitch along because she's also got the Do Not Miss a Miss kit. We became friends through Instagram, and she's also a Barbara Anna fanatic. So yeah, we were bound to hit it off. But she put up a tutorial on her Flosstube. So if you're not following Yasmin on Instagram or on YouTube, I recommend you go and give her a watch. She's so lovely, and she's got lots of really interesting, lovely projects, and she also puts up tutorials as well. So yeah, I used her tutorial for this. This was using a box from the works, a wooden box, and I used some fabric from Stash, it's autumnal sort of flowers. There's some ribbon that I have from Stash, and this cross stitch is the autumn whirligig from Heart in Hand, and I really love it. I used the recommended threads, and I used, I think it was a 32 count linen from Peakside Needlecraft that was quite inexpensive, and I also had this cording that goes around the edge. I had that in Stash as well. So yeah, I only had to buy the wooden box from the works, which was £2, and I had everything else. I haven't yet put anything in this, but I loved making this so much. I do lack a bit of confidence with finishing sometimes. It's something that I definitely want to work on. There's the inside. Yeah, it's definitely something that I want to work on, but I guess I'm only going to gain confidence by continuing to do it. And I'm really super happy with how this turned out. I loved making it. It brought me a lot of joy, and I really, really like the finished product. Yeah, I think it's super sweet. I'm just not quite sure what I'm going to store in there yet. I don't suppose I have to store anything. I just have to look at it and think how pretty it is. More clutter, as my husband would say. He's not a fan of clutter. He would rather be a minimalist, whereas I'm the hoarder in our house. So yeah, that's that. And I think that's all the cross stitch stuff I've got to show you. So up until I started the 4 seasons, I was a monogamous stitcher. I was only working on the cat. My idea was to stitch on that till it was completed, but then the 4 seasons stitch along, we started that on my birthday, and then it's just been a gradual, oh, I'll start that, oh, I like that, I'll start that. And I've bought quite a lot of patterns as well over the last few months, so they're all up in that folder there. So yeah, I'm sure there'll be more cast on soon. So if I move on to some embroidery that I've had on the go for a while, if you're not interested in anything else like hand stitching of quilts, crochet, knitting, free motion embroidery, then you're more than welcome to say goodbye. Thank you for coming, but I'd love it if you stuck around if you're interested. So I am a multi-crafter, and I do like switching between things. I find it quite hard. I do think I try my best to be monogamous with things, but my brain is just the case of, oh, I feel like doing that, I'll do that, and just do whatever brings me joy in that moment. So day to day that can change. So these are some things that I've been working on. Well, I'm trying to think. Some of these things I started when my daughter was a baby, so these could be up to 5 years old. I'm not quite sure how old some of these things are. This is an embroidery, and it's by Libby Moore, who's known as Threadfolk. She's on Instagram. She has a website, I believe, and I can't remember what this pattern is called. I'm going to show it quickly. It's a pay-for pattern, but it's of a cottage in amongst a pathway of flowers with 2 people, and I'm using an old bed sheet actually, just an old bit of 100% cotton bed sheet, which I probably found in a charity shop, because when I used to do more natural dyeing, I used to go to the charity shop. I've got quite a big one here that's got loads of textiles, and buy all the 100% cotton bed sheets, or if they didn't have any, I would have like the highest cotton polyester count I could find, like an 80/20, and cut them up and dye them with like kitchen waste or leaves, flowers. But this bit was relatively clean, and I thought, oh, that would look really nice with that springtime scene on it. This is something that I might pick up again, because it's quite nice stitching on this in the spring. So I'm not using the called for threads. Just bring it a bit closer so you can see. I'm just using whatever DMC I felt like at the time, like a handful, and then just stitching those flowers and then moving on to the next threads until it's finished. And I use a friction pen for this, a Pilot friction pen, which fades with heat. I've never had a problem with it on light coloured fabrics, but I have found it makes marks on dark coloured fabrics. You have to be really careful with that. So yeah, I definitely was stitching on this in our old flat, and we've lived here for 3 years. This is probably about 4 years old, and I kind of lose the love for it. I find it quite I don't know, I just don't feel the love for it very often, but when I do, I pick it up, do a few hours, and it'll get there in the end. You can see the pasture starting to take shape. I've nearly finished the little people, I've finished the cottage. It's just getting on with the flowers really. And it's not complicated stitches, it's just back stitch, lazy daisies, I think. There was, oh gosh, my memory. The knots, French knots. There was French knots in this, but I didn't like the way they were looking, so I just made them into little back stitches. You might be able to see here. I just made them into little back stitches. When I hold up to the light, you can see my thread work on the back, but I don't think it's going to be a problem when I frame it. I think it'll be fine. So I'll probably pick that up again soon. This is a design of my own, which I've been working on again since I lived in my old flat on and off. So this is my own design that I sketched and then put onto fabric with a friction pen, and I've been embroidering it. And the plan for this is to cut it out and make it into a little stuffed toy. So it's just a little bear with ferns, and flowers, hearts and trees and stars. And just down here it says loved, and there's a little ball of yarn there as well, and a snail, spirals. So yeah, I was planning to oh, my camera's slipping. Oh, I should also remind you that I'm not the most professional podcaster either. So yeah, this is something that I was planning on making into a pattern. I might still do that. I've got quite a few of my embroidery patterns that I would quite like to get released, but it's just having the time to do it. But if you're interested in that, then let me know. That might give me the motivation to do that. I haven't got a great amount to stitch on it now. I've got to finish the ferns and the little rainbow down here, and then it'll be done really. I mainly used sewing thread to stitch this, like my regular, oh, don't know where to point, there, can you see over there on my wall? Yeah, I mainly use sewing threads, just because, and one strand, because I just like the delicacy of that, using that. And I just did this on an old scrap of cotton, I think it is. Oh, scrap of cotton, or cotton canvas, I think this is, fabric. So nothing special. like you could just use a calico, something like that. And yeah, that will make a really cute little stuffed toy when I eventually get it finished. And I'll move on to my free motion pieces. So these are pieces that I've been working on and off now for, I'm trying to think, maybe two years. And this is the technique that I've started just really enjoying on the machine. So this is one of them. So I use the jelly plate and acrylic paint to make backgrounds that I like, and stencils. Some of them my own, some of them I bought, to make patterns in the background with the paint. And then I emphasise those through stitch on free motion embroidery, and then I also add on like other objects like the bees. So yeah, really pleased with how this one's going. It just needs a bit more time, and I really love this little moon up here. It's really sweet. So yeah, I will continue with that at some point. These are normally pieces that I frame. I have got my work in a gallery close to here. I have got a piece for sale in there at the moment, but it hasn't sold yet, but one artist can hope. And there's another one. And this was a quote that I saw from a children's book that I really liked. And it says, "At that moment, the sun burst out. The plants shone as a million raindrops glistened like gold." And this must be why I have my love and an affinity that I feel with Barbara Anna, because I also really like stitching with houses and hearts and plants. I've always really liked houses, and I've always incorporated in my work, for quite a long time, particularly ferns. My daughter's called Fern, one of my daughters is called Fern, so yeah, that was just a little girl that I sketched out and then I got onto fabric. This has got some glitter thread in it as well. I don't know if you can see that. That's why I put glisten like gold. I felt like that really suited that quote really well. This is a piece that is inspired by Ponyo. I don't know if you know that film. It's a children's film, but adults also really love it. By Studio Ghibli. If you haven't seen it, I recommend you go and watch it. I love Studio Ghibli films. It's about a little boy who makes friends with a fish who becomes a little girl. And the opening scene is of this whale and fish with these boats on riding the waves. And I think it did originally have a lighthouse in, but I decided not to put that in. It's got a big fern plant up through the centre of it. So again, I just sketched that out with that as my inspiration and then stitched it. So there's the back. I just used pin batting onto it as my stabiliser, and then off I go on the machine. So some of it I will sketch out on the fabric with a friction pen, and then I go over those lines, or sometimes I'll just like freestyle it and just go with how I feel on the machine at the time. I've just got a couple more. I really like the colours in this one. It's not got much stitching in this one yet, but I really like those greens and blues, and more plants, more spirals. So yeah. And the last one, I really love this one. Really love it. This is probably my favourite one. So again, houses. I also use a lot of moons, trees and stars in my work. So now I'm a stay-at-home mum, and I have been since my first daughter was born 5 years ago. But before that I was a mental health nurse, and before that I did a degree in ecology. So I've always had an affinity, a closeness with the natural world, and home is really important to me, which is why I've always used cottages and houses in my work. And this was inspired by another children's book by John Classon, I think he's called. He does some amazing children's books. I can't remember what this one was called, but it was about these two boys who were digging underneath the ground and they found all these treasures. And I really liked that concept, and I thought, how can I get that down onto fabric? So yeah, that's why I started to incorporate like these diamonds and feathers, just things that you'd find that are treasures underground. And this is again has got glitter thread in the moon and in the stars. So yeah, I'm really inspired by children's literature as well. Do enjoy putting that in my work. So yeah, that's my free motion work. Gosh, we've already been going for 45 minutes. I'll try and wrap it up soon. I've just got a few more little piles and I'll be done. I'll move on to my quilting. So I'm really desperately want to pick this up again. This is English paper piecing, and I started this at the beginning of the lockdown, so 2 years ago. I might have to stand up. And this is all fabrics from my stash, and also some of my naturally dyed fabrics, right up here. These, they're naturally dyed. Just fabrics that I like from my stash, and over time I've just been sewing these little hexes, adding them to the quilt. I was hoping to make this king size so I could get it on our bed, but I've not picked this up for ages. Again, probably since I started cross stitch, I've just not been interested in anything else. And it was my friend Caro, we started this more or less together. I think we were inspired by Anne Wood. Do you follow her on Instagram? She's really inspiring. She also has lots of lovely tutorials, lots of them free as well. So yeah, I recommend going to look at her on Instagram and her website as well. But she was the one who inspired a lot of people to start these hexy blankets and gave details of how to get going with that. Oh, just found one of my paper pieces has come out. Whoops. What other quilting have I got here? Oh yeah, this is another quilt. I'm not a massive quilter by any means. I don't know much about it. I've just kind of plodded through it, through learning through YouTube, which is how I learn about most things, if I'm honest. I taught myself to knit through YouTube, a little bit of crochet. I'm not much of a crocheter, and jelly printing I've used YouTube. I just find it a really fantastic resource, lots of free lovely information. And this is another quilt that I've been making. Just show you the back. And this is all hand stitched. So I started this when I was actually pregnant with my second daughter, and my idea was that this would be a lovely quilt to snuggle under when I was breastfeeding her, but as you can see, it's still not finished. It was 100 squares. I cut them out using my gosh, my memory, I'm so sorry. You know the machine where you use the die cuts, the die cutting machine. I can't remember which one I've got. Big Shot, that's it. So I cut these out using my Big Shot, so all the squares were even and really easy to sew together. I just used calico that I had in my stash, and this really lovely upholstery fabric I found at a flea market in Bridport. My in-laws live there for 3/4 of the year. They've got a caravan there, and they've got a really lovely flea market, and it's vintage upholstery fabric, and I thought, gosh, I really want that. I didn't pay much for it. It was just a slim panel. I think it cost me about £6, and I just thought that would make just the most gorgeous quilt. So I've stitched all 100 by hand of the squares, so that aspect is all finished, and I've even got the fabric to do the binding, and this is where I've got stuck because I feel so unconfident about binding. So I need to practice on some scrap fabric and then try binding it to another scrap quilt probably before I do it on this actual one. So that will be the binding, same as the back. And I really want to get this finished. Like, my daughter's still breastfeeding, but she's like 15 months now and I've still not got it finished, so I didn't meet my goal, but that's just the way things go, isn't it? Especially when you're a mum to two and you're a stay-at-home mum. you have to lower your expectations, don't you? Because I'm home educating as well. My daughter does go to a setting, like my oldest daughter goes to a setting 3 days a week, so she does 15 hours, but then I've still got my toddler with me, so I can sometimes stitch for an hour when she naps, and then I've obviously got the evenings and the weekends when my husband's not working, so I can get a bit done in those times, but just try not to stay up too late because then I'm breastfeeding through the night, and yeah, I just get really tired, so I have to be careful with that. And these are just a couple of projects that I bought second hand that were a bit broken, and I wanted to give them some love. So I'll stand up again. So this is a quilt that I bought from another artist for £4. I don't know how old this is, but it does look vintage. And all these squares that you can see that I've cut out, all these hexagons that I've cut out, they were all frayed or damaged. And a long time ago, this is before I was vegan anyway, because I do think some of these are silks, I found some reclaimed silk in the Oxfam charity shop. So I bought this pre-vegan. I wouldn't buy this anymore. But my plan was that I was going to make some hexagons and repair it. And I've just had that for ages, but I'm going to leave it out. Hopefully I'll get onto that at some point. Give it some love because it's so beautifully soft, and I like to think about the women that, you know, made it. My friend Caro, who I mentioned earlier, sorry about the crinkling, she sent me a picture on Instagram the other day of these really gorgeous hearts sewn on the machine made from old quilts. I've got this panel, which I've had for quite some time, that I think I bought on eBay actually, or it might have been Instagram. And I've also got these old pieces that I bought from my friend Marilyn. All these little log cabin hand stitched quilts pieces. So there's those. There's also this little block. And I wanted to try and make some of those little hearts. And it's from the What Women Create magazine. And I will try and include a picture up here so you can see what I'm talking about. My plan was with these, and maybe possibly with this part, I'm not quite sure, to try and make some of those hearts. But you can see it on the Readerly app if you're on Readerly. But as I said, I'll try and include a picture up there so you can see what I'm talking about. So that's something that I'd like to make. And I think the last things I've got to show you are some crochet knitting. This is a project that I've had for a really long time. It's a crochet blanket that I've been making for my daughter with just cotton. It is really big as well. It's quite slim, but it's long. But can you see how it's ruffling at the edges? I'm not quite sure what I've done there. I need to try and fix it. But basically I've just got to finish this cream border and then it's done. But I'm not quite sure if they're going to block out those ripples. If anyone knows anything about cross stitch and they know what I've done wrong, or if this is going to block out, could you let me know? I'd be really grateful. I'm kind of hoping that I'm just going to finish the border. I've still got this cotton, but yeah, I'm hoping that I can finish it, cast it off, and then it'll it's quite thick, isn't it? And then hopefully if I block it somehow, like wash it and then hang it on my line with pegs or something, maybe then I'm praying that those ripples will block out, and then she can have it on a bed. Be grateful for any help with that. And the last thing I've got to show you is just some knitting. I've got this gorgeous mango wood bowl from Vegan Yarn. It's the only yarn company I support really these days. I love her hand dye technique. And I'm knitting some socks. This is a really gorgeous colourway. I've just turned the heel on these. Don't you just love that striping? Can you see that? Not sure if it's showing up because of the sunlight. But I've just turned the heel, so I've just got to pick up the edges and then I can knit the foot. And I've already finished one of these. Just see if I can grab it from the bottom. I don't have any sock blockers anymore. I sold them and I stopped knitting as much. So now I've just got this cardboard one I made. So yeah, I'm nearly done with that pair. And I've just got a pair that I made not that long ago that I finished. I thought you might like to see. So yeah, they were made from a sock blank. You were supposed to knit them 2 at a time, but I didn't want to do that. I just wanted to knit 1 sock at a time. So I just split the blank into 2 and then I just knit them as they came. I'm really pleased with them. These are vegan yarns, so it's a blend of, I think it's cotton, bamboo and elastic. She imports it from America, this yarn, and then she dyes it herself. She's an indie dyer. Just love her dyeing. She's really talented. And I think that is everything today. So I hope I didn't rattle through that too quickly. If you've got any questions, then please get in touch with me. I'll try and remember to put that picture up of the hearts. And yeah, if you'd like to come and join me and Yasmin with the stitch along for the 4 seasons, you're more than welcome. Any questions, get in contact with me, and I'll try and record again soon and show you some progress on my cross stitching and my other projects. I'm not sure how often I'll be able to record because it's not very often that I'm in the house alone. My daughter's got singing and dancing theatre group today, so my husband said she'd take her and my toddler and give me a bit of a break. So I thought, great, I'll record as I've got the time. So it might just be really sporadic here and there, like whenever I can find the time. But I've so loved coming back, and I hope it hasn't been rushed, and I hope you've enjoyed it. Anyway, take care. Bye.